Ich bin in Togo geboren. Schon als Kind hat meine Mutter mir gesagt.
Olá, Ali! Tudo bom, meu amigo? Muito bom poder falar com você, mesmo que seja virtual aqui, mas é uma grande alegria poder falar com você e principalmente falar sobre o nosso filme, né? Mas eu queria também poder te apresentar para o público brasileiro. Fala um pouco aí da sua história, fala um pouco da sua vida aí para que a gente possa conhecer um pouco da sua história.
Hello, nice to meet you. My name is Ali Napoy, and I am an actor and a drama teacher in Germany and Switzerland. How did I end up in Germany? Well, that's a great question. I moved to Germany when I was 11 years old, and my mother was living here, so I joined her. That's where I've been living for the past almost 30 years.
Fala um pouco para nós da sua trajetória artística, né? E fala também um pouco onde você está trabalhando hoje. Acho que é importante para a gente poder conhecer um pouco melhor o seu trabalho.
When I was a child, my mother took me to Burkina Faso. That's where her sister was living with her husband and her children. And we stayed there for a couple of months for her to figure out what she was going to do with her life, because she got me when she was very young, and I think she was 19. And back then it wasn't well seen for a young girl to come home with a baby in her arms, without a husband, without a ring, and yeah, basically out of wedlock. And so she had to figure out things on her own. That's what my grandparents told her. And she took me to her big sister, and I stayed there from the age of 2 till I was probably 9 or 10. My aunt used to live in a yard where they would do music or do batik, so our neighbors were all artists, and they used to have a sandbank where they would rehearse, and while rehearsing, the music was loud playing. You would hear the drums, you would hear the chants, you would hear the storytelling, you would hear the crowd applauding, and the acrobatics taking place. So it was very, very vivid and lively. So yeah, for a child of my age, that was quite attractive, and that's how I basically fell in love with theater, because I had it right in front of my door. Moving to Germany, I went to school, graduated. Just before, or in my last year of graduation, a friend of mine called me because he knew I was into music and DJing. That's what I was doing back then, and also singing. And he would call me and ask me if I would like to join his group, because he wanted to make or put on stage an African piece, a theater. And I was like, oh man, I don't know, let me figure out, because I've got a lot of things going on, and this is my last year, and once I've graduated, I want to do something else, and I'm not sure theater would be my first choice. And then he said, man, you never know, just give it a try. I said, okay. Talked with my mom, and she agreed, And so I started playing and found my heart back, you would say, because, fell in love right away with it. And people said I was good at it, and I myself felt good in it. So I changed my mind from studying auto design to becoming an actor. And I went to Berlin. I studied there for 2 years and basically felt some rejection that quite put me out of course. After 2 years, I came back. I moved to Frankfurt, where I met my mom. She also moved at the same time there. And we first lived together, and then I could acquire myself a little home. And that's where I was living back at the time. I think I stopped theater. I stopped acting and just went straight back to music and writing songs, rapping. I would write a lot in French and sing a lot in all 3 languages, German, French, and English. And I had a group, or better said, many groups. Well, we ended up creating an association and for musicians, and I think that's a side story. I got back to acting in 2018 while reading a newspaper, and there was an announcement calling for actors, calling for screenings, and I said, okay, let me just go and try, because right now I wanted some other challenges. And I went, had an audition, many, and then got the main role, played there, and I stayed basically for 2 years on a row. I got to play 2 main or leading roles. Yeah. And then I discovered teaching, playing with youth, and I tried it for a year with my director back then, and we took them to some great challenge. They trusted us, and I felt great joy in sharing with them the knowledge I acquired, and I felt that I wanted to do more such things, and sharing and empowering, and that's what I started doing back then too, independently. And someday in 2020, the National Theater of Darmstadt gave me a call and said they were looking for some people for an audition, and they talked to my director, and she told him about me, and they wanted me to join. I went there also for the audition, and got a role in a play. Few weeks later, probably 2 weeks later, somebody else from the National Theater in Darmstadt gave me a call, and her name was Lena, and she was the director of the Department of Youth and Education, and they basically were looking for somebody with my qualities to join their team. And so I auditioned. I talked with her, with the team of directors, and the head of the house, and we talked for hours. And at the end, they gave me a contract, and I signed it. And so I was on stage and also behind the scenes working at the National Theatre of Darmstadt for the past 5 years. I worked there till the 31st of July and then moved on to some other place because I started working at Schauspielhaus Zurich. That's a great address. So when I applied there and they invited me, my boss in Darmstadt also understood and let me go. So this is where I am right now.
O nosso encontro aí na Alemanha foi um encontro muito inusitado, né? Não quero falar muito não, prefiro que você fale como que foi esse nosso encontro e como que nasceu essa nossa parceria. Conta aí para nós.
How did I meet director Elder Fraga? Well, I think that was probably concocted in the belly of the universe by God for us to meet because it was magical for me. We met in Darmstadt while I was working there last year, I think 2024 to 2025. And it was magical because he was sitting in the, how do you call it, canteen. And I just walked by, I saw him, and there was the vibe, there was this liveliness of Latin Americans, and the African side in me rejoiced, and we said, "Hey, how are you? It's good to see you." And so we got well along, and we chatted, and Elder told me, "Hey, I got something for you. I feel like you're an artist, right?" I said, "Yes." And then he said, Are you a dancer?" I said, "No, I'm not a dancer." But he said, "Man, you got the presence and all." I said, "Yeah, I'm an actor." And he said, "Hey, I got this project. You need to come. We need to work together." And so that's basically how we got to do I Just Wanted to Eat. And then more. Then he told me that he had to undergo a trip to Brazil and that he would come back with a script and we're going to start right away to work. I said, okay. He went back, he came, and then sent me the script. And I said, wow, this is cool. Because it resonated with my core experiences.
Agora eu queria falar com você sobre o tema do nosso filme. A gente teve alguns encontros, né? E a gente queria fazer esse trabalho juntos e a gente queria achar um tema que pudesse preencher a gente, né? Essa história, né? Que tivesse força e, claro, a gente chegou num ponto que eu acho que é uma grande discussão não só na Alemanha e no Brasil, mas como no mundo inteiro, que é o racismo, né? Eu queria que você falasse um pouco desse projeto que mexe tanto com você, comigo, o mundo todo, né? Então eu queria que você falasse um pouco sobre isso.
And definitely racism, I mean, like daily racism is something I do encounter. And I mean, being black in Europe, because the old continent still got it. It still has racism, and it's gotten better, but it's still an idea that is ingrained in many minds. And as long as people are not offering better ideas, they are going to be clinging to these stereotypes and hatred because of the fear of losing their superiority sense. At least that's what I observed, is that many people are losing their basis. They are losing faith because faith is not promoted anymore in the society. They are losing values, so they are clinging to whatever they can find that is attesting to their superiority against others, especially in the authoring of other people, so they can feel better themselves despite lack of money, lack of love, lack of trust. So it resonated with me, and I just rehearsed sometimes, and then he got his camera. I just went to the place and put the setup, and I played. Die Welt wird deine Haut sehen, bevor sie dich sieht. Heute verstehe ich es. Wenn es Ihnen nicht gefällt, vielleicht wäre ein anderes Restaurant besser für Sie, besser für mich, weil ich schwarz bin. And I'm glad it went so well because we don't really talk about it that much. And, last time, 2 months ago, my colleague from the orchestra in Darmstadt gave me a call, and she said, is that still ongoing? How do you feel it? Because she is working in an association and for equality, for human rights, and they had this theme that came up with, hey, we want to talk about racism, and we want to put out a magazine and talk about it. And some people in our association were against it because they said, no, it's too much, and they don't want it to be printed. And somebody else said, well, if we are printing other people's stories, why shouldn't we print those stories too? And then she gave me a call and wanted to know what my stand on this was. And then I told her, it's funny that you're calling me because I just had like 2-3 days ago an account. Somebody yelled at me in the morning while I was doing my run. I just went for a run, and there was this guy coming in front of me in his car, pulled over, pulled the window down, and then yelled, "Go back to where you came from," to me, at me. And I was a bit startled, and then I shook my head and said, man, this is nothing new, but it never gets old in terms of another one. And the body reacts. The mind says, nah, it's just some ignorant who needs to vent out some frustration. And when I told her that, she said, no, you cannot be serious. I said, yeah. It still is. And she told me about her experiences as a lesbian. And I said, yeah, those people still exist. Open-mindedness is something we tend to expect everybody to have, but people are different. So that is also a part of open-mindedness, to be ready to encounter those moments where you get shocked. An elder just put it right in the plate when he said, this is what we're going to do.
Seine Worte. Wenn es Ihnen nicht gefällt, vielleicht wäre ein anderes Restaurant besser für Sie, besser für mich.
And I said yes, because it was right. I've had these encounters in bars where they wouldn't serve me. I had to yell at people. I had these encounters in restaurants where I would have to sign my white friends to go order for us, or to talk to the people for us to come serve us.
Weil ich schwarz bin? Abi. Retinado. I just want a job. I know they find trouble. I know the thief.
It was quite, I wouldn't say frustrating, but yeah, you kind of felt belittled and unwanted. And to always be the one to control your anger is tough, because you're not supposed to get emotional when people are attacking you on a personal level, especially when you're hungry or thirsty. Yeah. And so I'm glad we did it. Thank you, Elder. I'm happy Elder wants me in the next movie. And In Search of Motherland. Wow, that's another topic resonating with me. Being an expatriate and been living abroad for 30 years almost. We kind of always are looking for motherland. I think refugees is also a theme in it, something I encountered.
É sobre resgate, é sobre história, é sobre busca. É um tema muito importante que eu sempre quis desenvolver no meu projeto e tive a sorte e o prazer de poder ter você também nesse projeto.
All damals. Man hat hier einen Flüchtlingsstatus erworben. Die Kommunikation und das Verständnis mit anderen Deutsch war ein bisschen schwer, aber auch nicht zu viel. Relativ schnell gelernt. Aber das erste Gefühl, was man halt immer hat, ist, oh Gott, das werde ich niemals lernen. Das ist ja so schrecklich. Aber irgendwie gewöhnt man sich daran. Und heute ist es quasi wie meine erste Sprache. Schockmomente bei mir waren, und also nicht nur deutsche Kultur, sondern europäische Kultur begegnet habe. Die Art und Weise, wie man mit Menschen redet, ist ganz anders. Ist in Afrika sehr viel ausgeprägter als hier. Du sollst die Menschen nicht beleidigen, du sollst immer respektvoll sein. Du sollst dich aber auch nicht unterkriegen lassen. Genau, das, was du gibst, das bekommst du ja auch, wenn du möchtest geliebt zu werden, liebe andere.
Eu acho que o nosso filme Eu Só Queria Comer foi tão especial, né? Que a gente não parou por aí, né, meu amigo? A gente emendou um outro trabalho, que é um trabalho que eu já venho desenvolvendo há uns 5 anos, e depois de eu tomar conhecimento da sua história, né, das nossas conversas.
It's going to be very personal. definitely. Can't wait to just start working right away. Brazil, I love Brazil. Big heart, bro. Big heart.
Eu quero muito que você venha, muito em breve, para a gente exibir o filme e a gente fazer novos projetos juntos aqui também. Fala um pouco aí do Brasil.
Yes, because it's my country. I've been around a lot of Brazilian people, and I always loved the language and the vibe, the laughters, the food. I promised to myself that I would one day go to Brazil. So I think that's what also connected me with Elder, because yeah, we are quite alike, and I can't wait to set my foot to the country and see all the beautiful sights it has, and yeah, want to be there with you and see you again, Elder. Much love. Obrigado. Amor, I see you.
Para nós. Obrigado, meu amigo. Obrigado por essa entrevista. Desejo a você aí agora na Suíça, nesse teatro que é um teatro histórico, que está te acolhendo para o seu trabalho, que é incrível, que você tenha também ótimos ciclos aí dentro desse teatro. Espero muito em breve estar aí na Suíça para a gente estar exibindo os nossos filmes e estar pensando em projetos novos. Obrigado e vamos em frente.